Have you ever tried to read the Bible and just felt a little lost? I mean, it's a huge collection of books written over centuries. It can be a lot. But what if there's a different way to look at it? Let's unpack a framework that sees the Bible not as a random library, but as one single epic story.
Right. What if all those histories, poems, prophecies, and letters that seem so disconnected are actually just different chapters in one massive, overarching story?
Yep, that's the big idea we're exploring. A single plot line that runs from page 1 all the way to the very end. It's the story of God's kingdom, how it was lost, and the incredible plan to get it back.
Okay, Section 1, the perfect blueprint. So to really get this story, we have to start where all good stories do, at the very beginning. We need to see the original design, what this framework calls the perfect blueprint.
This whole idea of God's kingdom really boils down to 4 key parts, or pillars. You've got God's people, living in God's place, under His rule, and enjoying His blessing. Now, you're going to want to remember these 4 pillars. Seriously, they are the key to understanding the entire story, because we're going to see them pop up again and again.
So, right at the start, in the Garden of Eden, we see this perfect pattern in action. Adam and Eve, they're God's people. Their place, the garden. They lived under God's rule by simply following His word, and because of that, they experienced His blessing, this perfect relationship with Him. This is the template, the world exactly as it was meant to be.
All right, Section 2, a kingdom is lost. Well, as you probably already know, that perfect situation, it doesn't last. The story takes a sharp turn and dives right into its central problem, the complete loss of this perfect kingdom.
And wow, this slide just lays out the disaster, doesn't it? Look at the before and after. God's people, gone. God's place, they're banished, kicked out of the garden. God's rule is totally shattered by disobedience, and that incredible blessing, it becomes a curse. Every single one of those 4 pillars just crumbles to the ground.
But, and this is a huge but, this is the turning point for the rest of the entire story. It doesn't just end in tragedy. The narrative makes it clear God has a rescue plan. He is absolutely determined to fix what was broken and bring His kingdom back.
Okay, Section 3, a rescue plan unfolds. Now, this rescue mission isn't some quick fix. It actually unfolds over thousands of years, pretty much through the entire Old Testament. So let's take a look at how this plan starts to take shape, step by step.
So the plan kicks off with a promise made to a man named Abraham. God says He's going to reestablish His kingdom through Abraham's family. This eventually leads to stage 2, a partial kingdom. This is the nation of Israel, with kings like David and Solomon. For a while, they are God's people, in God's land, under God's law. But it's only partial. And when that falls apart, prophets start pointing to the future, to a new king who would finally fulfill all the promises for good.
So you have to ask, why did that partial kingdom fail? Well, the story keeps pointing back to one big, persistent problem: sin. The people just kept disobeying, which meant that the perfect kingdom, with that unbroken blessing, could never fully happen. A much bigger solution was going to be needed.
And that's where the Old Testament leaves us. It's a total cliffhanger. The stage is set, the promises are out there, but the people are just left waiting and hoping for the real king to finally show up.
Okay, Section 4, the king arrives. And then, after about 400 years of silence, the story's great turning point finally hits. The waiting is over.
And you hear it in Jesus' own words. The time has come. The kingdom of God is near. This is the announcement. The long-awaited moment has finally arrived. God's king is here to establish God's kingdom.
Now get this. In this framework, Jesus doesn't just bring the kingdom. In a very real sense, He is the kingdom. He's presented as the new Adam, the one who succeeds where the first one failed. He's the new Israel, who perfectly lives out the nation's calling. He basically embodies all 4 pillars in Himself.
So how does He do it? The mission is laid out in 3 basic steps. First, through His death on a cross, He deals with that root problem of sin that kept messing everything up. Second, His resurrection from the dead is the proof, right? It's the announcement that His mission was a success and that there's new hope for the world. But third, and this is super important, He doesn't finish the job right away. He ascends to heaven, which kicks off a period of delay before He comes back.
And that brings us to the final act of the story. Section 5, the kingdom, now and forever. This covers the era we're in right now and the ultimate conclusion to everything.
Remember that delay we just talked about? Well, according to this story, that's us. That's the chapter we are living in right now. It's sometimes called the proclaimed kingdom, a time for the news of this rescue to spread all over the world before the king returns to wrap it all up.
And boom, here it is, the whole story all at once. Just look at how it flows together, from the very top to the very bottom. It starts with the perfect pattern in Eden, which is perished by disobedience. Then it's promised to Abraham, becomes partial in Israel, and is prophesied by the prophets. Then, the kingdom becomes present in Jesus, is proclaimed by his followers today, and will one day be totally perfected. See that? It's one continuous, unbroken story.
So what does that grand finale, that perfected kingdom, actually look like? Well, it's the complete, final restoration of all four pillars. God's people become a huge multinational family. God's place is a whole new creation, and they all live under God's rule, enjoying his perfect and eternal blessing forever. The story really does come full circle.
So, here's the bottom line. Looking at the Bible this way, as one coherent story about a kingdom lost and found, it's kind of like having a map for a huge, complicated territory. It turns a collection of books into a single, compelling narrative. So the question I'll leave you with is this: what changes for you when you start to see it all as one big picture?